Honda didn't fix their engine for Miami. They unlocked it. Because this new design isn't about more horsepower, it's about finally releasing power that's been trapped since the start of the season. An engine built smaller, hotter, more aggressive than anything else on the grid, but so extreme it was shaking itself apart, damaging the battery, limiting performance every single lap. Now imagine that same engine, running clean. No vibration losses. No energy cuts. No hidden limits. That's what Miami is about. Not a faster Honda? The real Honda. And if it works, this doesn't just fix Aston Martin. It turns them into something nobody is ready for. At first, it didn't look like a weapon. It looked like a mistake. 3 races, and the car couldn't even finish properly. Both drivers struggling, not for points, but just to stay on track long enough to understand the car. And that's where most people stopped looking. They saw the results, and assumed the engine was weak. But that's not what was happening. Because Honda didn't build a slow engine. They built an extreme one. Smaller than the rest. Tighter. Designed to run hotter, more aggressively, pushing efficiency to the limit. And in theory, that's exactly what you want. More efficiency means more usable power. Better packaging means better aerodynamics. Better aerodynamics means more speed without needing extra horsepower. It's like carrying less weight while running. You don't need more strength if you can move more freely. That was the idea. But here's where it went wrong. That extreme design created something nobody could ignore. Vibration. Not the kind you feel slightly. The kind that spreads through the entire car. From the engine, into the chassis, into the battery, into the steering wheel, even into the driver's hands. And once that happens, performance starts disappearing. Because the battery, the heart of the electrical system, takes damage. And when that battery is unstable, the car cannot deploy full energy. Which means one thing. The engine is not being used at its full potential. So what we've seen so far is not Honda's real performance. It's a restricted version. A controlled version, designed to survive, not to compete. And this is the part most people missed. Because while everyone focused on lap times, the real issue was hidden. The engine had more to give. But it couldn't release it safely. So the team had to limit everything. Energy deployment. Engine modes. Even the number of laps the drivers could complete in practice. Think about that. A Formula One car being held back, not to manage strategy, but to avoid damaging itself. And that leads to one critical realization. If the problem was never lack of power, then what happens when that limitation disappears? But here's where everything changes. Because Honda didn't abandon that extreme design. They didn't go backwards. They didn't make the engine safer, slower, more conventional. They kept the same concept. And instead, they attacked the weakness. The vibrations. Not by rebuilding the entire engine, that would take months, but by targeting the exact points where the problem spreads. And this is where the new design actually lives. Not in raw power. In control. They redesigned how the engine connects to the car. New engine mounts, built to absorb those violent frequencies before they even reach the chassis. Almost like placing cushions between the source of the impact and everything it could damage. Then they moved to the most fragile area. The battery. Before Miami, it was directly exposed to every vibration coming from the engine. Now, it's isolated. Separated. Protected by a revised mounting system that stops those forces from reaching it in the first place. And that single change might be the most important of all. Because if the battery stays stable, the entire electrical system comes back to life. Full deployment. Full boost. Full consistency. But they didn't stop there. Inside the engine itself, Honda made targeted adjustments. Not a full redesign, but precise corrections to the components generating the worst vibration frequencies. Think of it like tuning an instrument. You don't replace the whole guitar. You adjust the strings until the noise disappears. And suddenly, everything sounds right. That's what Honda is trying to do. Keep the aggressive concept, but remove the chaos. And this is where things become dangerous. Because now, the original advantage remains. The compact size. The aerodynamic freedom. The efficiency from running hotter. But the biggest limitation is being reduced. And that creates a completely different car. Because if the engine can finally operate the way it was designed, then everything around it starts working too. The airflow becomes cleaner. The car generates more effective downforce. The energy system delivers power exactly when needed. And the driver finally trusts the machine. But here's the tension. None of this has been proven yet. Not over a full race distance. Not under Miami heat. Not under real pressure. So this is not just an upgrade. It's a test. Because if these changes hold, if the vibrations are truly under control, then for the first time this season, We are not watching Aston Martin fix a problem. We are watching them unlock a concept. And once that concept is unlocked, everything we thought about this car starts to change. And this is where the story stops being about fixing a problem and starts becoming about unlocking a weapon. Because once the engine becomes stable, everything around it begins to amplify. Now the aerodynamics finally matter. And this car is not normal. It was designed to work with a tightly packaged engine. A smaller unit that leaves more space around it, allowing air to flow cleaner, faster, more efficiently toward the rear of the car. But before Miami, that advantage was invisible. Because unstable power means inconsistent airflow behavior. The car never reached the conditions it was designed for. Now imagine that changing. Stable engine. Consistent energy deployment. Predictable behavior through every corner. Suddenly, the airflow becomes reliable. The downforce becomes usable. The entire car starts operating as one system, not separate parts fighting each other. And this is where Adrian Newey's influence becomes critical. Because this car was never built for short-term comfort. It was built for long-term performance. Aggressive suspension geometry. Unusual airflow channels. A concept that only works when everything else is stable. Before Miami, it wasn't. Now, it might be. And that's when something interesting happens. Performance doesn't just increase. It multiplies. Because when one part improves in Formula One, it affects everything else. Better stability means better tire usage. Better tire usage means more consistent lap times. More consistent lap times mean better strategy options. And suddenly, the team is no longer reacting. They are controlling the race. But here's where the stakes go even higher. Because this is not just about Miami. This is about what comes after. If Honda proves the engine can run clean, if Aston Martin gathers full race data for the first time, then development accelerates. Faster than before. More precise than before. Because now they're not guessing. They're building on reality. And behind that, there's something even bigger waiting. The performance upgrades. If Honda's deficit is large enough, which everything suggests, they qualify for the most powerful development window available under the rules. That means multiple future engine upgrades. Real horsepower gains. The kind that can change positions on the grid. But none of that matters if the base system isn't stable. So everything comes back to one moment. One race. One complete distance. Because if the car finishes, clean, consistent, without limitations, then for the first time this season, we are not looking at potential. We are looking at direction. And that direction could be very uncomfortable for the teams ahead. Because what looks like a struggling project today might actually be a delayed one. A concept that arrived early, failed loudly, but now is finally ready to show what it was always meant to be. So this is not just about whether Honda improved. It's about whether they were right all along. And if they were, then Miami is not the solution. It's the moment everything starts to make sense. And this is where everything finally connects. Because Miami is not where Honda becomes fast. It's where we find out if they were fast all along. For the first time this season, the car has a chance to run exactly as it was designed. No forced limits. No reduced energy modes. No compromises just to keep the system alive. Just pure execution. And that changes how we judge everything. Because up to now, every result has been misleading. Lap times didn't reflect real performance. Race pace didn't reflect true potential. Even driver feedback was filtered through instability, vibration, and constant uncertainty. Now remove that. And suddenly, every lap becomes honest. But here's what makes this moment so important. It's not just about speed. It's about clarity. Because once the car runs clean, the team finally understands what they actually have. Where the real strengths are. Where the real weaknesses are. What needs to be improved, and what was never the problem in the first place. That's when development becomes sharp, focused, dangerous. Because now, every upgrade is built on truth, not assumptions. And this is where the rest of the grid should start paying attention. Because Aston Martin hasn't been improving slowly. They've been stuck, waiting, blocked by a single issue. And if that issue disappears, the rate of progress doesn't stay the same. It accelerates. Fast. Because now they have data. Real race data. Long runs. Tire degradation. Energy deployment patterns. Cooling behavior under pressure. All the things they never had before. And that information is more valuable than any single upgrade. Because it tells them exactly where the time is. And how to find more of it. But there's one final layer that makes this even bigger. Expectation. Right now, nobody expects Aston Martin to fight at the front. Nobody sees them as a threat. And that's exactly what makes this situation so dangerous. Because if the car suddenly performs, if the gap shrinks faster than expected, if the upgrades start landing on a stable platform, they won't just improve, they will surprise. And in Formula One, surprise is powerful, because it forces rivals to react, to change plans, to spend resources they didn't expect to spend. And that creates pressure, the kind of pressure that leads to mistakes. So this is the real meaning of Miami. Not a miracle, not an instant transformation. Something much more important, a reveal. The moment where we finally see the true version of this project. The real engine, the real car, the real potential. And once that version is on track, the entire narrative changes. Because the biggest question is no longer whether Honda fixed the problem. It's whether that problem was the only thing holding them back.